Welcome to the notes on solving for x with two steps equations. This is the fourth set of notes in this unit. So I'm going to put a number 4 on top. So far, we've learned how to do one-step equations. So a one-step example was when we were adding something to x. So if I had something plus 3, to get rid of the plus 3 and isolate x and get it all alone, I had to minus it away. So I'm going to minus 3 here. And I'm going to minus 3 on the right side so that my two sides stay equal. So this x is still here. 3 minus 3 became 0, and 5 minus 3 became 2. So I found out that x was 2. Because, if I put it back here, 2 plus 3 is 5. Also, we learned one-step examples that dealt with multiplication and division. So if you look, it says 2 times something is 8. So if I draw my wall, to separate my two halves, on the left with x is the 2 that's being multiplied to it. To undo multiplication, I need to divide it away. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is just 1x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So x is 4 because 2 times 4 is 8. So these are easy because there's only one step you have to do. As math gets harder and harder, they will add more and more steps. At this point, we're only going to add one more, which is where we combine these two steps. So there's a few rules or tricks for understanding how this works. The first, the most mathematical version, is to do backwards order of operations. So first, I'm going to jump in and remind us about the order of operations. This is just a side note. But the order of operations is sometimes taught as PEMDAS, and sometimes it's taught as GEMS. In PEMDAS, P means parentheses. But parentheses actually means any sort of grouping, because when you get into higher math, so G in GEMS is for grouping. So it means parentheses, but also you're going to find that you have brackets, and you have these little signs that mean absolute value. And there's a ton of other types of groupings in math as it gets higher and higher. And you always do your groupings first, meaning if there's anything to be done inside of there, you need to compress it until it's one number only. Then the E in both stands for exponents. That's when you have like a little 2 or 3 or anything in that upper little corner. You will soon learn what exponents are and how they work. But just if they exist, they come next. We in math right now, we're not dealing with the grouping stuff or the exponent stuff. We're starting with M, which is multiply. And then also D for divide. Here's the thing. Multiplication does not come before division. When you read math, you read left to right. And when you're done with your parentheses and exponents, when you read left to right, you do whichever one comes first, the multiplying or the dividing. Which is why in GEMS they just put an M, because it means multiplying or dividing. Not just multiplying then divide, it's whichever one comes first, because they're equal, they're the same thing. Remember, multiplying is dividing, just backwards. And then, so PEMDAS says next comes addition, and then S for subtraction. However, adding and subtracting are just the same thing as well. They're just opposite of each other. And so, just like multiplying and dividing, addition does not come before subtraction. They are of equal value, so it's whatever one comes first when you read it left to right. Which is why GEMS just put an S, and they put an S because it makes the word GEMS instead of the A. But it just means adding or subtracting, because secretly they are the exact same thing. So, to solve for x, you work backwards. So, if you knew what x was, you would go forward to figure out the answer. But here we know what it equals, we're trying to go backwards to find x. So backwards means that first you get rid of the thing that you're adding or subtracting. Then you get rid of the thing that you're multiplying or dividing. So if I go to this two-step equation example, I'm going to draw my wall. And going backwards PEMDAS, or backwards GEMS, first you get rid of the thing you're adding or subtracting. Right now we're subtracting negative 1. So to undo minus 1, you first have to add it over. Both sides keep it equal. So I still have my 4x equaling 7 plus 1 is 8. Now I'm down to 4 times x to undo multiplying. I have to divide it away. Divide it away. So that x is 2. If you don't trust your answer and you want to check, you can always put this 2 where x is up here. So if I want to check, it says 4 times something. When you don't know what x is, you put x. When you do know what it is, you turn x into a parenthesis, and you put the answer to what x is in that parenthesis. Then it says 4 times x minus 1. And if I put that in a calculator, it's going to give me out 7, which is exactly what I wanted, because 4 times 2 is 8, minus 1 is 7. So I know my answer is right, because when I put it back in and checked it, I got the answer I should have gotten. Alright, so for the next example, I'm going to draw my wall. Backwards Jim says first I get rid of the thing I'm adding or subtracting, then the thing I'm multiplying by. Another way to think about this, I'm going to give you 3 total ways, but way number 2 is you cover up the x with your pencil. When you cover it up, the number in front of it goes away too. And it's like the whole thing's covered. And first you want to get rid of the other thing. So the other thing's that plus 2, you still see it there on the left, so I'm going to get rid of that to minus that away. Minusing it away. So that negative 1/3 x is going to equal this 2 minus 2 went away. Negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12. Now it's still being times by negative 1/3. And so negative 1/3 means divide by 3. So to undo division, I multiply it away, the 3 on the bottom. But because it's negative, I need to make it negative 3. Because I want the negative to go away too, because I want it to be just x. So now the 3 and the negative cancels, so I'm just left with my 1x equaling negative 12 times negative 3 is a positive, because negative times a negative, 36. So x is 36. Don't forget, I could plug in the calculator if I wanted to. Negative 1/3 times 36 plus 2. And the calculator would tell me that my answer is negative 10, so I know I'm right with my math. So far, I've taught you 2 ways to remember the order. A third way to remember, first I'll run through the first 2 ways. Backwards Jim say to get rid of the thing you're adding or subtracting first, then the multiplying. Or if I covered up my x term, what I see left is the plus 4, so that's what I need to get rid of first. Another way to think about it is in math, multiplying is really strong. Because if I take a 2 and an x, they're different. And when I multiply them together, they become one term. Remember, it's one term if they're being multiplied together. But it's different terms if they're being added or subtracted. So it's one term if you think of M for multiply, also M for marriage. Marriage takes 2 different people, and when they get married, they're considered to be one. Now think of adding someone on as like adding a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You're just adding someone to your life. You're not one yet. You're still separate things. You're just hanging out together. You're doing stuff together. It's an add-on. So if we want to isolate x, if we think of x as the person who we want to single up and get alone, x is currently married and has a side hoe. So to get rid of your side person, or which one do you get rid of first, your side person or the person that you're married to? Well, it's a lot easier to drop the side person. So first we're going to get rid of your thing on the side. So I'm still left, x is still married to negative 2. The 4 minus 4 went away. We got rid of the side person. Negative 6 minus 4 over here is negative 10. Now you get rid of the person you're married to by divorcing them. D for divorce. or division, you know. And so remember I have to divide by the negative as well. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 becomes positive 1x, and I don't need to write the 1. And negative 10 divided by negative 2 becomes positive, because the negative and negative is positive, 5. So that x is 5. If I plugged in negative 2 times 5 plus 4 into the calculator, I would get out negative 6. So I know I'm right, because when I plug it back in, it equals what it's supposed to equal. And finally, I don't care which way you like to think about it. If you like to think of it as backwards, Jim, so you get rid of the thing you add or subtract first. If you want to cover it up and say that's what's left, or cover up the x and say that's the number that's left, or if you think of it as getting rid of somebody's side, you add that 15 away to get rid of this first. The thing you're adding or subtracting, you get rid of that first. Then, since the negative 15, you need to add your 15 over. I'm going to add my 15 over here, because I need to keep them equal. So I'm still left with 3 x's being divided by 2. Then minus 15 plus 15 becomes 0, and it goes away. It cancels. We don't need it. And it equals negative 9 plus 15, which is positive 6. Now I have a fraction, and I want to start by getting rid of the bottom, which says divide by 2. I'm going to get rid of it by timesing by 2. The 2's cancel, or you can think 2 times 6 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Either way, you're just left with the 3x that was on top, and 6 times 2 is 12. Finally, 3x means 3 times x. So to undo multiplication or marriage, you divide it away or divorce it away. And 3 divided by 3 is just the 1x. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So again, if I were to type into the calculator 3 parentheses 4 divided by 2 minus 15, and press enter, I'd get out negative 9. So I know my answer is correct.